Women have it easier than they think they do.
With feminism, it's kind of brainwashed women to think that they are victims in 99% of cases, and all the disenfranchisement that they would claim in like colleges and careers. A lot of these careers are way easier to get into for women than they are for men because they're looking to hire women because of feminism.
Yeah, like in divorce and stuff, they get more property, the kids' rights, all that.
Yeah.
But more so, I think that from the jump, actually have it easier. Like, men need to be a provider. They're taught to be tough. Oh, why are you crying? Don't be a girl. But when a girl is crying or a girl is upset or anything that happens, usually they're a princess and they're given the world.
Well, yeah, because with women, they're born with their value. They innately have value. They can create life, and they're extremely valuable from birth. For men, it's not really the same way. You have to make something of yourself to be respected.
Exactly. Like a pretty woman can go far just using her face. A man can't do that. A man can't go to a rich businessman or like a businesswoman and be like, I'm good looking, let me come to your yacht.
Right.
A woman can.
Right.
Sometimes, not all the times. It's not always that they can use their beauty to get.
Okay. It's not all the times.
Not all the time. Sometimes it helps to be beautiful.
Well, I think there's some pretty privilege, but I think the pretty privilege is also there for men that's like more handsome.
Yeah, there are a lot of men that use their.
But I think, I mean, definitely beautiful women have a lot of power. Inherently, there's not much they need to do. They need to keep it up. They need to keep themselves slim. And they can provide that value, but also, that value depreciates from the time they turn 25. It goes just downward. And if they're not supplementing with, being feminine.
You're just being like Leonardo DiCaprio after 25 years. He's not, like the good anymore to date someone.
Yeah,
I
think he does that, right?
You agree with that?
No, well, he dates women from 21 to 26, and then he dumps them, and then he finds a 21-year-old again or something like that because he wants to date them in their prime. Well, I mean, he has the capacity to do that.
Why I think it's acceptable for him to do that, and no otherwise for women to date guys after they choose.
Well, some women do too. I mean, would you still be with me if I got to be broke and didn't have any money and couldn't do anything?
It's not about money. I didn't look for you.
Oh, but let's say I'm breaking my leg. We need to amputate the leg. I suddenly can't work. I get depressed. I can't function anymore.
Yeah.
I think you would trade me a little bit.
I don't think I can answer what would I do, but it's gonna be hard to know how situations in this kind of scenario would affect our relationship. But I believe that there is chances of overcoming all of this and still find a way to be happy. If both of them want
I'm Norwegian, so I would probably get some money.
It's not about money. You're just talking a lot about money. It's not that.
But let's say you're in Brazil and your life quality would be massively worse. That would influence a woman's choice because a woman would probably think about, oh my God, I really want to have kids, and this man cannot support even me. I need to work, and he can't do a lot for the kids and all of these kind of things. So I think it will influence a lot of that decision. But of course, with a man too, like if a girl suddenly, have a super, gets ill and stuff like this, it's on both sides for sure. But yeah, I do believe there's a pretty privilege, and I do believe that women might have it easier, but in the end, they're not going to have it easier because once they grow up, once they turn that 25, 26 years old, they're just going downwards, and they need to actually start to mature in their mind. They need to be more mature emotionally, and they need, if they still want to be attractive, they need to own their more of their feminine side, because that's how you increase your attractiveness as a woman. without, improving your looks. When you have maxed out your looks, the only other way is to be more feminine, and have a value that you can provide to your partner through your femininity and your feminine energy.
Let's bring the disagreeers forward.
I have a quick question. Just a second ago, you were saying that a pretty woman could go on to a rich man's yacht and that would be kind of her ticket on, right? Okay, so did that help women vote at all, being pretty?
What does it mean?
What does that have to do with
I'm just asking.
To vote in an election.
If she's pretty or not, does it interfere with what?
Yeah, like, does it help her to vote?
Doesn't
No, I mean,
matter.
I
lost.
think he's a little bit lost. He's a bit triggered. He doesn't know how to, he's not clear on himself. So he's going to be shut down here.
Because, I mean, when we're talking about women's lives being better than they think they are, would you rather be pretty and be able to get on a yacht or have your liberties?
What are we living in, like 1950s or 2022?
Women
They already have the right to
vote
vote.
for a long time.
I think something you specifically said shows to me why women don't have it easier. I think it was you who said, women already have their value. Their value is already obvious because they can have children. I don't want to put you into a box, but there are large amounts of men. Women are people that have children and then they raise the child and they be quiet.
And I think
that is
This guy, I'm fairly certain, I just get this intuition. No, it's just an intuition. I don't know,
You
maybe I'm
can
wrong.
judge someone by
but-
just looking at it.
But I don't believe he has a good relationship with his father. Was his father present at all? It seemed that he maybe was raised by his mom, and there maybe was some conflict with the father. I don't know.
that is a
Not at
problem.
all.
I think what was really evident to me when both of y'all came up and talked was how indoctrinated into the patriarchy you are, right? You both come up and say, as men, we have to prove something. And those expectations that you put on yourself is a direct result of patriarchy and the systems that feminism is trying to dismantle.
As are the values that women have that when they were born that you're talking about. Women did not create those.
Right.
Men did.
Those are God ordained. Men and women are both equal under God and in value as human beings. In Genesis, you have a creation of both men and women that are made in God's
We're
image.
not
So
about
we
to
are
quote the
both.
Bible and like some feminist
Hold on,
talk.
but so
I mean, we
so-
can.
If we're operating in a country where there's a separation of church and
back-
state, you cannot use religion as
Okay,
a
and the Bible
motivation
also
to
doesn't
make
tell women
legislation.
You cannot-
If I hear one more,
You can't use religion to dictate legislation like law in the
Like
country.
like a Muslim religion that became kind of law, a religion that became a law.
Yes,
instead of
that would
Catholic.
be like in the US, because you have so many different people, you can't really dictate the whole country by Christian rules or Muslim rules, right? So they need to have a separate kind of entity.
person use religion as a reason to not give rights to people, probably gonna fucking explode. People
I mean, I agree with him. Like, why bring up religion? What the fuck are you doing here? It seemed like the You Believe channel didn't get the right people in here.
using their own personal ideologies as an excuse to implement legislation over other people's lives are simply just not okay with the fact that they can't control everything around them.
Back to the prompt, I mean, I don't think that women have it easier than they think they do. And I think to just make blanket statements like women in society think they have it easy or men in society have it harder or whatever you want to say, I just think it's kind of naive. Sure, maybe some women think they have it easier, but that might not be because they're a woman. It might just be because of their own set of life challenges and vice versa.
And I agree. And one of the reasons that I am so passionately anti-feminist is because I believe that feminism pits men against women. Men and women may be equal today, but they are not the same. But also, too, women are under a pressing assault today in this country. They're losing their ability to compete in sports, beauty pageants, also just basic things like that to people that identify as women. And no one is talking about it. Feminists aren't talking about it. So now you have conservatives having to fight for women's equality in
You're making
these
some
spaces.
pretty blanket statements saying feminists don't care about it. And you say, you think that all women just are against men.
To answer your question, yeah, you're talking about women. Women are not all feminists. Yeah. There are plenty of feminists who are very anti-woman. You saw it during in the political era where you have people who will attack Kayleigh McEnany and Kellyanne Conway because they aren't pro-women. They're not for the girls.
So you,
Actually, we have just a little bit left. I haven't heard Kevin yet.
Yeah, When you talked about the pressures of being a man and having to provide and having to prove your value as a man, I think those are real challenges that men face. That's why like women have it harder too, because they are also being impacted by how aggressive men feel like they need to be able to secure the role that they have to play in society. But the reality of today is that because of the systems that we're in, the patriarchy is negatively impacting not only women, but also men.
There's no wrong reason.
I would like them to discuss more about this patriarchy, because you kind of need to define what they really mean about that, because it's like a label they put out there, and then they don't really explain what they mean about the patriarchy.
You know what it is, right?
Yes, of course, but they need to tell us what
Their views on that.
how they interpret that.
Reason to get an abortion.
So I'll just center the conversation around the very fact that, you know, we're a group of 8 men. The optics of 8 men in a room talking about when women do and don't deserve to get an abortion it's a bad look. So for me, from a personal standpoint, you know, I have a girlfriend. There might be some reasons on a personal level where her and I having that conversation together, I might say, oh, I think we should do this, I think we should do that. On a legislative level, I don't feel confident enough to legislate when someone is and isn't allowed to get health care. Because that's what abortion is, it's health care.
Yeah. One of the paramount ideologies of, I guess, being a quote-unquote male feminist is just the ability to mind your own business. Just to be able to say that this is the wrong reason to have an abortion, you're already headed down the wrong path.
So being an anti-feminist, I look at this and I say, well, I am more religious as well.
As am I.
So I want to say, like, I'm more like pro-life, right? But if a woman decides that they want to not give birth, it doesn't matter the reason, you know. Maybe she's not wealthy enough. Maybe, you know, the father left her. You know, there's so many reasons. And then I also look at like just gun violence and how we're like birthing kids and we raise them and send it to school knowing that it can get killed. I don't know. I would feel like
it's like not a safe. It's not the best world to be raising a child in.
Exactly.
I think
you know, interesting thing that, you know, about societies around the world, there's literally just one thing that makes like really poor societies rich.
What is it?
To give the women control of their reproduction.
Well, why do you think why do you think it should be different? Not give them the power to decide if they wanna.
No, I think that they need to do that, because that's shown. Like, if you go to a poor society and then you give the women control over reproduction, you can go back 10 years later and suddenly this society is thriving. Because you know, when you don't have resources to almost, you know, only feed yourself, and then you have 5 kids, you increase the fertility and mortality rates, and yeah, it's sad. And then the point is that I'm trying to make is that, for example, Mother Teresa, well, everybody hails her and puts her on a pedestal, you know, but in truth, she worked her whole life making sure that poor communities would not give the women the right to control their own reproduction. She has this both sides.
The religion
Yes.
was not pro-abortion, never.
Yes,
really.
and
Now
that's
things are changing a little bit with the Pope and the Catholic Church, some more flexibility, but it's still a taboo.
yeah. I mean, I think you should be able to do it, but not after 3 months.
No,
I mean, you need to make a decision, and then you make that decision.
before the first 3 months.
Yes.
A patriarchal element, even in your answer, not to combat or what have you. The idea of trying to cycle through the reasons why and going, yeah, I guess those make sense, is still, in my opinion, patriarchal.
Even though I was on the feminist side on that topic, it feels like I was put in a position where I was framed as wrong. It felt like you aren't allowed to have this opinion on this topic because you're not a woman. And I think that's kind of bullshit, to be honest.
Off the top of my head, I know that it was mentioned earlier that abortion is healthcare, and I first want to push back on that. Abortion is not healthcare. Healthcare preserves life, it protects it. It doesn't take it away, it doesn't eliminate it.
What about the woman's life?
But when you exterminate a child, that is doing harm.
Oh, but it's
That
not
is
always a
healthcare.
child, right? So it's a discussion when it becomes a child or not. That's not a gray area. That's not a line.
It is actually scientifically proven. It is a separate
So we're
strain
talking
of
about science or
DNA at
law?
conception. If you ask any doctor,
But if you took that clump of cells out, would it survive?
it's not a
Well,
clump
we
of
are all
cells.
a
That's why you
clump of
call it a
cells.
termination. Scientifically, it is a life at birth, and scientifically,
birth.
it is. I'm sorry,
you
at
just hear?
conception. At conception,
sorry.
It is a
scientific.
life, but it is not a human.
So look, though, the thing is, so when you say it's about protecting life, abortions are protecting lives of thousands of women who maybe are not able to
At
have.
the expense of another life.
But you're already prioritizing that other life over the woman who's carrying that life.
Because of
The word, is he gonna take accountability of every woman that are not able to do abortion and they have to be forced to have the children, and then they have to give the children away, and then the children become homeless or criminal or whatever? Like, so what's the benefit of keeping it when you don't want it?
Yeah.
patriarchy too.
Because of
That's why
patriarchy.
you're doing it.
Because of
Because we've
patriarchy,
already
you're
devalued
basically
women.
saying that.
They will continue to just like throw this out there because of the patriarchy, because of the patriarchy, because of the patriarchy. Well, there's a law called the law of one and many, and it's a hierarchy, and I think they just don't like hierarchy, but nature does have some hierarchy within the natural laws.
The animals kill other babies. For example, I saw the other day the video of a bird that the mother came to feed them, and that there was no space. There was like no space, but there was no possible for her. It was not possible for her to keep feeding all of the like 4 babies bird, and she had to took one of them throw away because otherwise all of them would die.
Yeah, exactly.
She had to make a decision between feeding 3 or feeding none of them, and all of them die.
Yeah, exactly. The same in the jungle of Amazon, actually. There was a guy, a Christian guy, he went down there and were supposed to get them to change their religion and beliefs. And one time, they give birth to this child with Down syndrome or something similar. And then the tribe, they decided what to do. They took some alcohol, made the baby drink the alcohol, like poured it into his throat, and then they buried the kid alive.
That's terrible. That's the thing. I
So,
don't like it. I don't like
yes,
that kind of stuff.
but the thing is that
But I have
this
heard-
tribe, if they would start to take care of every genetically bad baby or whatever, I'm not saying the right words here, but Down syndrome baby, the tribe would not be able to survive in the jungle. And he realized eventually that his morality, that he's putting his moral codes onto this and projecting that onto this tribe, you can't really do that because the tribe doesn't survive if they were to live after all this morality that he is looks at as a good society. So,
but it's also a kind of preconception that you think just because someone has syndrome Down, it's not like a human being that doesn't deserve a chance of experience life.
yeah, but in the
I don't
jungle,
agree with that thing. Yeah, but it would have proved nowadays the syndrome Down can be like it's a normal human being. It can live a normal life. It doesn't affect much.
yeah, but I don't think
the
those
indigenous
disabilities
know
are.
it's not like someone that
I would love to see you
was
live in a
born-
jungle for a month
Yeah, but
and see if you have the same opinion.
Without someone that was born without legs or arms that cannot do anything or walk, then I think the tribe would have to do like carry on and do a lot of work with his children. But it's someone with syndrome Down, like I don't even if the person has no
They would be
legs
less
or-
productive or they would be more unproductive than productive, I believe.
But this is very very old because humans being has doing that for long years, like healing, or
Mhm.
they feel ashamed of having a children that is not like considered normal.
Yeah.
And they hide it sometimes from the society, those kind of children's, before they were calling like kind of like monsters, that they don't consider them humans, but they are.
Mm.
Anyway.
So what if we're
See, these
aborting a
cells
female
are more
baby?
important than the
I
woman.
think it's absolutely shameful how flippantly our society has begun to treat the topic of abortion. You are literally exterminating an unborn child.
To
That
protect
is
the
wrong.
life of
That is
another
wrong.
woman.
Then don't have sex without protection.
Really, you don't
and
have
get
sex without
contraception.
protection. How about you don't have sex without
Well, I
protection?
don't have a
Tell 'em what they
baby.
can do.
I don't have a baby.
Tell 'em what they can do.
Stop
Yeah.
absolving women and men
Yeah.
of responsibility and treating.
Let's,
Down.
Mansplaining is overly criticized.
this is a boring prompt.
A lot about now telling women that
They're not telling them that. They're validating the fact that
Someone
that's the
to
reality.
mention Interesting prompts.
Women should be encouraged to be financially independent of men.
I think this one's a no-brainer, right? I believe that men and women are equal. They're just not the same. And I think with that equality comes equal responsibility to be able to provide for yourself. And when I think about what could provide for oppression, if that were to exist, would be this idea that they were tethered to men to live their lives. I think if you remove that tethering, then obviously women are free to do whatever they please and exit very bad situations. You know, one of the most unfortunate stories that you hear so often is that so many women are forced to live in very dangerous circumstances because they don't know who's going to provide for their child if they leave. They don't know who's going to provide for them if they leave. And so I think financial independence for anyone is always just a good idea.
Yeah, I want to speak about this through a different lens. I think it should be like women should be
Feminist is
empowered
feminist.
to be financially independent.
And feminist is feminist in this topic.
The anti-feminist or feminist on this topic. Well, it should be a surprise that the anti-feminists are supporting women being financially independent because, you know, they apparently there's something else they're not agreeing with when it comes to feminism.
Encouraged versus empowered takes a different sense of support. Speaking to how men feel the need to provide. Sometimes when a woman makes more than a man, men can feel like they're less of a man because the woman is taking more of the boss and provision kind of role in the household. So I think that it's important to be able to equip women with being able to feel like they are empowered.
Here's an interesting thing. A friend of mine, she just had a baby with my other friend. So two friends of mine, but she mentioned that she knew this guy that you know, that doesn't look amazingly good. You know, he's more on the lower echelon of looks. And he's just having such a hard time in the Norwegian dating market. Literally, nothing is happening in the dating market for him in Norway. But when he went to the US, the whole thing changed. He was sought after in the dating market. That's because he had a really, really, high status job as a PhD psychologist. And can bring in an income. So this is actually, Norway is one of the most and probably the most feminist country in the whole wild world, and it's been to the degree that it's changing the priorities in the dating market, because things are very different in the US. Because if you think about having a child in the US, if you don't have insurance, you need to pay
A lot of money.
$25,000 in order to have that birth in a hospital. In Norway, it's for free, and you get a lot of other services with that for free. I've been having some friends having kids now lately, and they say, "Wow, it's amazing. We get so good care and support throughout the whole journey."
Not the same in America, and at least
No.
not in the US,
And
North
that
America.
and exactly that's the reason why women in Norway, they don't really care for a man that is making a lot of money. That's not their priority. Their priority is more, you know, the other things, social status, and confidence and looks and different areas of life that they're actually prioritizing rather than a man that's capable financially and in his career. So it's really interesting to see that.
So you think they would
been
date a
flipping.
poor guy?
Yeah,
They're,
they don't mind
don't
that as
care
much.
if you're,
But in the US, it's like
if you don't have money
if you
or
have the
nothing,
looks as a girl, you don't date the poor guy. You know, it's
yeah.
that's kind of
Sometimes
the feeling when I go to the US. Like money has such a huge importance, right? Compared to any other city in Europe, basically.
And that is a feminist thing because it is breaking the gender norms of like what is masculine and what is feminine role.
Yeah, I also think it is important, though, in this conversation to recognize the women that don't want to be financially independent in a marriage. You know, there's a lot of women in our country that enjoy being mothers, and I think being a mother is one
incredibly
of
valuable.
Yeah, exactly, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're, you know, stuck in their situation, because they're doing something very valuable by sacrificing that freedom in order to raise our next
It's
generation.
just giving a choice, right?
And
Yeah.
their love is their labor,
Exactly,
right?
right,
Their love
exactly.
is their labor in their home.
Okay, I have a few different thoughts. One of them would be the importance of the family. I think women should go out and be financially smart and know how to make money and be able to make money for themselves. But being independent of men leaves this notion of that you can never trust a man or that men are unsafe. And the problem that this brings is in the family. I think
Can
the
I ask you
nuclear-
why?
Hold on, I'm just going to finish my thought.
the face of the guy was like, what are you talking about?
I'll explain. With the nuclear family, you have, and this is for both men and women, they're the most happiest when they are in that kind of dynamic. And to your point about marriages where women makes more than the man, that's one of the biggest indicators of divorce. And I think there is a societal and
But
think
again,
that's-
in the that's
It's
a
a
reference of the US, because if the girl empowers herself, she works more, she earns more, she has a better, that maybe they start out equally, but then she ends up earning more. She gonna prioritize someone because that earns more, because money has much more meaning in the US. You want to climb that social status ladder, and that gives you way more opportunities within your social circles and stuff like that. While in Norway it's much more leveled. I don't want to say it's a good thing or a bad thing. Norway has a lot of bad things because of its being a feminist country. You know, a lot of man hate in Norway is on the rise. So, you know, it's not
Do you get
a utopia. No.
You'll have a. Do you think your life would be easier if there were no feminists in Norway?
No, not really.
You like to live in the kind of circle of.
It's just sad to see some women that they don't realize their own feminine power that they have inside themselves, and they try to build all these masculine qualities, but their heart is not really fulfilled deep inside of them. And you know, this is what I do professionally to help them kind of relieve their fortress of masculine qualities to be able to embrace their own feminine sides. But feminism is blocking that because, you know, it's not really
But what do you
constructive
consider
for.
to be feminine? What does a woman has to show that they are feminine?
I mean, that's a good question. You know, if you have a good feminine quality, you know, dancing in full body ecstasy is much easier for you than, you know, putting a goal and just strategize yourself towards that goal and working towards that goal. So if that's easier for you to have that dance, then your feminine qualities are more built up than the masculine qualities.
Well, what is the feminine qualities that man look in a woman that is feminine?
It's you.
No. But I have many moments that I don't feel that I'm feminine. I can be kind of, I have masculine as well in me, the
Like now.
masculine energy.
What do you mean about feminine?
Yeah, exactly. Not only that, I think both, we can have both, or like the masculine and the feminine living together in harmony.
Yes. And that's the way it goes. You know, we grow towards more balance. So men need to develop their feminine side, women need to develop their masculine side. And that's great. That's part of the evolution. But now women have grown their masculine side so much that they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater when it comes to their feminine side, and that's not really conducive for safe and intimate relationship.
How can they discover the feminine, like for someone who has been struggling to show this feminine, like what would you recommend the person to?
First of all, they need to learn feminine communication. They need to learn to express their needs without, being controlling. So that's, for example, saying like, you don't do enough at home. You're not spending time with your kids. You're spending too much time at work or with your friends or whatever. That's a controlling thing. That's masculine directive energy. And that's not optimal. So if she rather would say, hello, darling, I really miss you. That's more expressing her desire in a way that inspires a man. Oh, she missed me. Well, I need to do something about that. I can fix that. What do you want? Let's go grab some dinner. I really want a pizza. Let's go grab some pizza tomorrow. And then after that, we hit the bowling range or whatever,
But what about some cases where you said to the guy like, oh, I really miss you, and then the guy just turned, oh, whatever, and just doesn't really care about you sharing your feelings?
Well, that's where I want to inspire women to see that they themselves have much more power within themselves to be able to make the man do whatever they want to do, because women know already that
that's manipulation then.
well, you can manipulate or inspire. What's the difference?
There is
it's how you do it, right?
Manipulate things.
Hmm?
I think there is a difference between inspiring, but I
So did I inspire you to marry me, or did I manipulate you to marry me?
Married yet, so
To get engaged then.
I wanted it to happen, and I'm happy that things are going well for us.
So it was a win-win fair exchange, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't manipulate you, but I inspired you.
Yeah, but I don't think has to be like love. It doesn't have to be a game of living together. It doesn't have to be a game like, oh, I would do this because if I did that, now you're like planning too much.
It doesn't need to be. Well, it is quite natural. For us, it's quite natural. It's like a couple stance, the masculine needs and the feminine follows. And that's natural, the natural dynamic. The problem is that we're blocking this natural dynamic from happening. And that's what I will help people work through, both men and women. I help them work through those blocks that they have inside of themselves that makes them, really block that optimal dynamic of the relationship. Because it's really natural for a man to be a man and a woman to be a woman. But in today's society, women can't be women because women should be like men, and men can't be like men because men should be like women. And on some level, it's productive, but in another level, you need to see that that's not the end station. You also need to, as a man, ground yourself in the authority of death, which makes you more present, which makes you, work towards your purpose. And women, they need to open up into their feminine receiving and divinity. That's the feminine.
Oh, I agree. I agree. You have a point.
Honestly, God-given responsibility for men to provide. So when men are told that women are
I really don't like that they're putting too much religion here. They could have like one religious guy on each side, but when like 3 out of 4 of the anti-feminists are religious, it's really not the best,
going to be
anti-feminists out there to conduct such a thing that's happening here.
independent of you, you're stripping away a lot of their purpose and responsibility to be caretakers of women, to provide for women. I would also say that the biggest group of people that are on antidepressants, and it's 1 in 4, are women that are 40, have a career, and have no family and no kids. Which is the real meaning of life, is community, family, and relationships.
Can I respond to one specific thing you said, which is the demographic of women over 40 taking antidepressants, and you're using that as proof that they're the most depressed group. Men just kill themselves. So like all the men that have killed themselves, if they didn't do that and we're still here, men would predominantly be more depressed.
There's no basis for that.
But also the
men statistically kill themselves more.
But we're talking about 2 completely different points.
Well, I think he's just saying that statistic is a little bit difficult to process.
It's out of context because the men that
there's other factors.
Yeah, there's other factors.
There's always going to be other factors, but that's a clear indicator that women at some point, whether they started wanting a career, will eventually want to fall into a role of being a mom, having children, because that is what women derive the most happiness from.
You got a lot of studies and stats over here, which is cool. But like when we're talking about financial literacy and financial freedom, there are a lot of women that have the ability, that decide to step back, all those types of things. None of that has to be taken away or omitted in order for them to be empowered. People should be able to do in their households what they want to do. And I don't think anybody's trying to take that option away from women. I think y'all think people are, but I don't think that's really happening.
But they are. But they are. We see that in society today. People demonizing women for choosing to stay at home. Female empowerment also means empowering women, again, to make the choice that fits them, their choices, and what they want to do. It is just as
like a trade wife.
Trad wife.
Trad wife, yeah, sorry. Trade.
Do you want me to become a trade wife?
Can it be a trad
Can
wife?
trade wife? We could trade husbands every other day.
as powerful, just as influential, just as important.
That should be a new trend. If you're tired of your husband, you can just trade, become a trade wife.
As a choice to make, to
get your best friend's husband instead for a month and see how you'll do.
Raise your kids at home, if that is what you want to do, and also be the CEO of Walmart if that's what you choose to do. We can empower women to be girl bosses, whatever else whatever you want to say.
Would you empower a male friend if he told you that he was going to quit his job to be a full-time stay-at-home father?
If he wants to.
What? So,
cash in, buddy.
That's good. I just want to make sure because, like, you're only defending women who get demonized.
They all said, like, absolutely.
For doing this, and you're not like advocating for men to want to step up and do that too. You're only
because most men don't want to.
Why not? Why don't you want
because
men?
They don't want
because
to.
They just don't want to.
I don't want to.
I just want to make sure I follow your logic.
Are you pro choices or pro less choices?
This is a trap. This is a trap.
What do you mean by that?
Are you pro choices? Are you pro less choices?
When I asked him why he doesn't encourage men, he said because
the anti-feminists are being too aggressive and avoiding the real answers.
Because they don't want to do that. So then why is it a problem if women don't want to be stay at home?
I'm not encouraging women to stay at home.
Too.
I'm not encouraging women to stay at home. I'm saying that they have a
Exactly.
choice, and I'm not for taking choices away from women. You may be. I don't know.
All right, reset. Exaggerated.
What?
Period pain is exaggerated.
Why they have to opinionate on that? They don't have period. Period. Then.
Okay, I'm glad no one stepped forward for that.
I'm gonna change my mind.
All right, next prompt. Innocent men suffer because of feminism.
What does that mean, innocent man? Innocent man.
What? Yeah, they should give.
Oh yeah, but innocent man.
So I think today in 2022, feminism has changed.
I think it means like, at least in Norway, a lot of women are like, men are like this and like that. And like, no, you're talking about the 3.5% men on the top and all the 95% plus other men is not in that category of what you're talking about. You're talking about the patriarchy, you're talking about these qualities that only the rich and wealthy and influential men on the top have. And you're basically taking all men into this camp. And to me, it's stupid, because how are you going to have a good relationship with a man when your view on men is that they're all fucking terrible people, you know? Doesn't work.
Drastically, and I think it's really turned into demonizing masculinity in men while promoting masculinity in women, and with that, good men are being...
Where girls on purpose go on the gym and they set the camera and they start recording, and the guys are just having their workout, and then after they post like, oh, look at this guy, what he was watching, he was looking at me, he's so like nasty and stuff like that, and the guy was not even like, they were recording them to portray that the guys were like harassing them, but it was not
They
true.
just want attention. I saw like in Blogger came in the newspaper for that, and then some people posted about that on Facebook and like, oh, blah blah blah, and like literally you can't see that a blogger got posted on the news for this video. You don't realize that maybe she has a skin in the game here, like she wanted to be there.
Exposed.
You know, it's
But they say, oh, look at this guy. Guys are all like that. They don't like respect women. They are always like harassing us.
yeah.
But what is not the reality? They're just manipulating them to favor them.
Push to the wayside and pushing parts of themselves down and not embracing their own masculinity because society is telling them that it's wrong.
100%. I think like anything that is deemed masculine is seen as now toxic. And I see it all over social media. You can't really say anything or do anything, especially even like against or even for yourself, without it being like some weaponized in some way or shape or form.
Yeah. It's a shame that feminism has become less about actual equality and more about supremacy.
But since it's equality, I think you should go and buy the wine.
Oh. You do it yourself.
It's not about equal rights between men and women. It's about women being superior to men. And women don't even like it anymore, right? I hear conversations with so many girls that are friends of mine. They're like, I hate what feminism has become because it makes me feel as if I'm a victim, and also too that men aren't supposed to be men anymore. It almost absolves us of the responsibilities that we have as males in society to be providers, to be protectors.
Right.
And innocent men suffer because we're made out to be toxic because we're fulfilling our roles as men in this world. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, and I mean, I disagree a little bit with saying that men have to be providers, but I think, you know, demonizing those men is part of the problem.
Yeah, you know, I would disagree a little bit, but I think also too, though, what we probably would agree on is that in a society that makes women feel as if they need to be more like men, all you get is really bad versions of men. And when you have men who are increasingly more feminine, you get men who aren't being men at all anymore. And I think like that's a huge societal problem, and we see the ripple effects and the consequences of that every single day.
So I really like this prompt, actually. I didn't quite understand like innocent man, but it definitely makes sense once I got my head around it. And yeah, I think this can be a fruitful...
When I started hearing y'all talk, y'all have a huge misconception of even what feminism is.
Well,
the goal of
explain
feminism isn't to
me then.
demasculate men. The goal of feminism is to fight for social, political, and economic equality for...
Yeah, that's what you think, but feminism has turned out to a game of power rather than what you're talking about, because
That's not the reality.
that's the first way feminism we're talking about. But wake up, man, we're in the fourth way of feminism. Things have changed. You can't really say that that's what you're doing, because that's not really what feminism is today.
Everyone, regardless of your race, gender,
or equality of outcome, because it used to be equality of opportunity, and that's when I would say I would be a feminist. But
either
now
way,
it's become equality of outcome.
Yeah.
So this is really important. They should have started with this, really, this question and this discussion, because there's a guy, he wrote the book, The Boy Crisis. So he's like really, you know, working towards men's health right now. But he was the first leader of a women's council I don't know, something in the government in the US, like a leading, think tank stuff to help women, and he was like on the forefront of this movement of helping women have their rights and stuff. And he says it to himself, like, when we started out, it was like, we are women, we are strong. But now it turns to, we are women, we are victims.
I think I saw this guy on Joe Rogan, right?
Oh, yeah, maybe I had there, but
he was saying some things.
yeah, that would be cool. I don't think I listened to that, but I read his book, and it's really eye-opening to see all the things and why there's a boy crisis now. It's not really a girl crisis; it's a boy crisis, and it talks on a lot of these points.
But either way, what y'all are talking about is feelings.
Right.
Y'all talking about, I don't like how women make me feel in society about crying, how women make me...
Well, the question was about feelings.
Yeah.
No, hold on.
It was about, are men affected?
Hold
That's
on.
feelings.
Yeah, but,
so yes, that's the
but
conversation.
feminism itself is not about feeling. It's about, like you said, outcome. It's about the wage gap. It's about having access to...
The wage gap doesn't exist.
Which doesn't
Wage
exist,
gap?
by
What
the
wage
way,
gap?
right? But anyways, I let you talk.
You don't know that the wage gap doesn't exist?
Mm.
In Brazil,
Exists
it might exist.
a lot. And I have, because I have been working some cases of like doing payroll and doing like promotion and stuff.
Mhm.
And I had a clear example of like a former boss of mine that she was doing she was a director of the company, and then they decide, oh no, you're getting old, you're gonna like soon be retired, so we need to hire someone younger, but you can still have the job with another title. So they hire a man, and he was earning in his previous job less than her, but when they hired to this company, they offer him like a kind of like a 15% more for him for the job to do the same thing that she was doing. And for keeping her still doing everything, he would just have the title, and she would be operating everything. So yeah, in some countries
That's one
they
case.
work, but in Brazil, I don't think that's really.
That's one case. But the thing that women have been beating their drum on is that wage gap. But it turns out that the wage gap doesn't really exist when you equilibrate for how much time is spent at work. So a male doctor versus a female doctor in the same degree the male doctor might work 50 hours a week, while the female doctor might work 38 hours a week.
We don't have that in Brazil. It's equal labor hours for both. And it has has been some. I believe that women there do much more work
Yeah,
than
but
men.
you do have the opportunity to work overtime.
You can, by law, have like 2 hours more every day, no more than 2
Okay.
in Brazil.
But in the US especially, and in many other places, you can work overtime, and there's a lot of statistics you can go into there. But when you equilibrate for the interest and the risk and the position of the job, because then they've been comparing like a doctor as a woman and a neurosurgeon as a man, and then they say, oh, but he earns more. Yeah, but he works more, he has a higher position than her, and you can't really compare apples to oranges, right?
Yeah.
So how do you really compare men to women? Well, you choose the women that don't have children. If you have a woman that don't have children, she's been prioritizing her career, and a man that doesn't have children and prioritizes his career, the wage gap is non-existent. And you need to equilibrate for hours worked. But
of course, they don't have family. When the guy that has family, usually he works, and in some many cases he earns much more than a woman that has family to provide to his house.
Yeah,
But when
but
you're
the
single,
when
you
the
don't have too much expenses, and of course
no, that
they
it's
kind of
not about
equal,
that.
kind
It's
of
it's
like
about it's about a woman that chooses to become a mother will prioritize her family over work. That's why she's earning less.
not
But
always.
a woman that's prioritizing work over family, she's gonna earn more than a mother.
It depends on which area you are. Like,
No,
'cause
but
there are areas
but
that are much more like for man to earn than.
but what you mean?
For example, in many areas, as I say, like management positions, leadership positions, they are. I'm talking about my experience in Brazil. I can talk about others, but is now like people are trying to have more women on the leadership position, but before it was just only most of the positions of leadership was men, and they were earning a lot of. So that's why we have because people were not allowing women to have this kind of position to earn more or similar. Even when they hired them as a leader, they were paying low.
But that's not the case in Norway. I'll tell you why. Because in Norway, you literally have a quota. So if your board of a company doesn't have so and so much percent of women, then you're not eligible. So then you need to hire those women to be in these boards. So there's actually a quota on leadership positions in huge corporations. So even a man is much more qualified than a woman. A woman will get the job even though she's not that qualified.
Yes, because they need to reach this quota.
Yes.
In Brazil, they're trying to do, but not most of the companies are doing that, are like foreigners company, the local companies. There's still a lot of
So the wage gap, when you calculate that, the men that works, they tend to be more comfortable working, not let's say as a nurse, which is pretty safe other than you're working on and off, at night and stuff, but as a tunnel worker, that's much higher risk and it's a much harder work physically, or handling toxic chemicals or building the roads. It's not the women that chooses those jobs, and the reason why men earn more is because they choose that higher risk job, which pays more. And also they work more overtime and they don't calculate that. How can you say women earn less than men, but yeah, you see they work less hours. Of course they earn less. You need to see what they earn per hour, not a
fixed salary.
A fixed salary. And then when you work overtime, you earn also more per hour overtime that you work. So we need to take that into accountability.
Reminds me of this guys that thought the other day in Brazil, they were doing this investigation, like the news on people, they were being paid by salary from the public sector hospitals and things like that. And then they found doctors, they were just going to the hospital, they were just using their card to check in, and then they were going back to their houses. And they were being paid without working.
Yeah.
And then they caught one of the doctors that he was running around the hospital, just with his sport clothes, running. And then the reporters started, doctor, whatever. So what do you think? We have been doing this news on reporting people, they are being paid by the government, but they don't really work. And then we just found out that you just checking with your ID in the hospital, and then you were here. Why you're not gonna attend any patients today? What are you doing? And then he started running from there.
You already have these running clothes, so
Then ran, sir.
No, you didn't let me talk, though. Hold on. No, you didn't let me talk, though.
It's about feelings, right? You don't want to talk about how men feel. Let's talk about how women feel. Let's talk about feminists.
Again, it's not about feelings, period. That's my point. It's not about feelings. It's not about feelings, period.
Other women.
Wait, can we have the prompt again?
Yeah, let's cut back to the prompt because it didn't have feelings.
Exactly.
Right. It's about
Innocent men suffer because of feminism.
And so can I pose this question?
But that is still about
on
feelings,
on a day-by-day basis, do you think you're negatively affected by feminism?
100%.
Yeah.
120%.
And so
really believe that?
No.
Can you explain to me how on a day-by-day
Because
basis
it makes
life
them
affects
feel,
you negatively?
because again, masculinity has this mythical eligibility of power.
Wait.
When someone, feminist, what have you, challenges that, it feels like oppression to them. So
Yeah.
it feels
It's not-
like something is
it's
being
not
done.
challenging.
That's just my perception.
Yeah.
Feel free to disagree, but that's what it looks like to me.
I'm not oppressed, so I
That's what I'm
challenge
saying.
that perception. But also, too, to go back to your point about feminism, that may have been true with first-wave feminism, but with third-wave feminism, that is no longer
And
the
I would
case
even argue
anymore.
because
No, I
first wave
disagree.
feminism and third
Guys,
wave
bring it back
feminism.
to the prompt. And then also just, I love the ping-ponging, but just make sure we don't have 5 people talking on top of each other.
All right. There's another side to this too. It's the patriarchy. And so that is what you are talking about. It is the pressure to be strong, the
patriarchy.
pressure to protect.
But in what ways is our society a patriarchy today? I know you said values, so I would want to get clarification on what you define a patriarchy.
So we should define patriarchy as a group, because I personally am still having a hard time defining.
Is there a matriarchy as well?
Yeah, there is. In Norway, for example, you have institutionalized matriarchy in the way, for example, the law system is when it comes to children, and if the parents split. And also you have the matriarchy in school, in the rules of school. That's why you see so many men and women, actually, like young teens, they don't build up resilience inside of themselves because they've just been supported. They've removed bullying and they removed anything that's assertive towards the kids, and they should be understood and listened to. And yeah, the kids grow up and becomes fucking narcissists because they don't have boundaries.
Defining it today because it is
So we're talking
massive.
about something that you can't even define.
So, I'll try and define. Do you want me to try?
Yeah,
and
let's
define?
do it
In a
together.
broader spectrum, I'd say patriarchal is the societal structure that we have set up that's kind of, what's the word, sociological values of how we set up a hierarchy in our society.
But
And
a
so it's
patriarchy
not
is
a
defined
literal.
by, where men are in charge and hold power.
Yeah, but that,
but
I'm,
wait, wait,
I'm
wait,
not
wait,
saying
suffering
that
from
it's a
patriarchy,
literal.
then
It's a
men
literal
suffer
thing where
from-
there's some document that somebody wrote where it said men are in charge, women are second. It is a set of sociological values that you see.
So we're
across
changing the
society.
definition of patriarchy, which is
from the-
fine. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
It is a
That's
group
what my
now.
definition
Yeah.
is. I didn't say there was a set
But that's
definition.
a,
I'm not a
red
theorist.
herring.
That's
anyway.
how
So
I
are
define
we
it.
saying we're not in a patriarchal society?
No, I don't
we're
believe we are
already
today.
doing-
So the whole idea that our country is an oppressive patriarchy, it just really gets under my skin because nobody's able to actually tell me what that is. Well, by definition, the patriarchy would be a society where men have power over women and women don't have a voice. And in today's society, that's just not true. Obviously, some people have power over others, but in our society, that has more to do with economic status than actual sex.
So going back to the prompt, right? The prompt is innocent men feel attacked
I don't even
by
agree with
feminism.
Suffer.
Suffer
They
from
suffer.
Yeah,
feminism,
attack
right?
is-
So
yeah.
if you make a mistake, you should be held accountable to that mistake.
Absolutely.
Now with the forms of internet coming out and communication going everywhere, y'all are talking about feeling attacked for being able to say certain things or not.
Not attacked.
If you
I just
are-
think that psychologically,
It
that
does
some
suffer.
innocent men do suffer from
But I
the
would say they
narratives that
also
are pushed from
suffer
feminism.
if you're speaking about laws. I think feminism has changed a lot of laws
Like
that
what?
now all are women beneficiaries. So if you look at divorce courts, if you look at family courts, if you look at abortion, if you look at a whole host of laws, all of them are women primary. Men are heavily affected by those.
So going back
So
to,
I just
For example, there's a movement now in Norway that tries to get more equal rights within when a father and a mother splits, and who gets the children, because usually just the woman get the children, but it's really been a lopsided system that's been benefiting women a lot, and now it's like trying to change that system of law. I guess it's the
They
same.
think it's more because they want the money, not really.
Yeah, there's been some terrible cases where, the man was raising the child until she was 7, and then the woman was kind of mentally ill, but she's, no, but he just raped her, and then, but then you have nothing in the court, even though you have won 2 court cases saying that you have custody of the children. She's complaining that, no, you raped her, or you were violent to me, and then, oh shit, the kids need to go there. You have nothing to say. There's not a reason to go into court again. You're gonna lose. So it's it's not really law, because law needs to be objective, right?
Right.
It needs to be facts. But then if a woman just says, no, I am afraid of the father, well, then that's a subjective opinion and experience. And then the law system is just gonna say, well, then we support you because you're the mother, and you will have it whichever way you want.
Yeah, it pisses me off when they don't give the child the chance to choose what they want to be. Why not?
Yeah.
And they like kind of block the child to make the decision, and they just give them to the mother. Sometimes the mother is the abuser.
Yeah, and then you could have an agreement with like a lawful agreement of how they should split the money and stuff. But usually the women don't follow that, so because they get more money if they don't follow that. So, and there's no follow-up on that system. So you could have a law saying that, oh, you're going to split it 50-50. So the father is only going to pay a small amount to her for raising the child, right? But then, okay, the law says 50-50, splitting of the children, but she refuses to give the children to him in the 2 weeks that he is going to have the children. Oh, but then the children are living with you, therefore you need to pay full custody for the children, even though, no, they should be with me these 50% of the time, right? So there's no law to enforce that the women follow the rules. And the court
But when
case.
the guy don't pay to the mother, the police is just there.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
follow up.
Disagree actually on that. I don't actually agree on the whole loss stuff. But just going back to like the prompt and the suffering thing, I do think that you have to be aware that a man can't just go and say whatever they want,
Right.
where a
Nobody
female can't.
should they be
That
able
is
to?
not
Nobody
true.
can.
A female can say a lot more than a man can, especially online, on social media, on the internet.
but a man
There's a
can
lot
also
of rape.
physically do
There's been
a
a
lot
rape
more than
threat
women
made,
can do in society
and a woman
too,
said
right?
no one will
that's
judge an eye.
biological,
Cancel
that's
culture
not-
doesn't come in. But if a man said
No,
that same
no,
thing,
I
they would
don't
get
agree.
canceled immediately.
I mean, this is not the strongest points. I wonder why these anti-feminists couldn't get on any stronger points.
I believe men today are really weak. Mostly they're lazy, and I feel like there's no courage. I feel like men today are okay with being losers, and I mean, more men need to stand up for what they truly believe in, and I feel like there's not enough.
Back to the prompt. Do innocent men suffer from feminism? I think look at with this entire Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation that happened this past year. You have all of these feminists rushing to the camp to defend Amber Heard, and then all those things come out during that trial, and people are like, maybe Johnny Depp isn't the horrible guy that we thought he was, right? So that is an example of feminism radicalizing these people to just be like, I'm going to be anti-male and I'm going to go root against this guy. But to the point of the political.
How is Johnny Depp a victim of the
Guys, we
system?
have
He had his day in
30
court.
seconds left on this prompt, so just finish your thought.
But yeah, but also to Brett Kavanaugh. Big example there. You have all these allegations that come up when he's going to be the Supreme Court justice that never came up before.
Right, exactly.
What did that do as far as enable people who have fake accusations to say, I'm going to ride the coattails of the Me Too movement and ruin an innocent man's life?
Really quick though,
That
where's
is
Brett
wrong.
Kavanaugh right now? He's on the Supreme Court.
He's on the Supreme Court.
Well,
Thank
that's
God,
crazy.
because
And then
truth
Johnny
won
Depp,
the day.
was he
Because truth
convicted
won
of
the
a
day.
crime?
Because
you
truth
still
won the
suffer.
day.
But that's the point.
He
So,
won
like,
in
yeah,
spite of
suffering
feminism.
is not equal.
There's a
because of it.
pendulum, and for a really long time, people weren't called out for things, people weren't held accountable. So now, yeah, the pendulum's swinging. Maybe there are going to be some false accusations and stuff going too far. I would rather have 1 million false accusations, like over 1 million people that deserve to be in jail not being in jail. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather people go through false. You'd rather have 1 million people
No, like he would
that are
prefer
guilty on the
people
streets.
being.
He said that I would rather have.
And maybe there are going to be like over 1 million people.
Yeah, but the thing that it says here that a lot of people go to jail
They're innocent.
because even though they're innocent.
I
So
don't think
People that deserve to be in jail not being in jail. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather people go through false. You'd rather have 1 million people that
agree
are
to
guilty
disagree.
on the streets
I want to go down.
than a
Than have
million
1
people
million.
that are not guilty have to go through a trial.
I would rather
All right,
have.
reset. Women are fit to be president.
this is boring from.
That just because a woman makes some decision when it could actually have a positive one.
The gender pay gap is real.
they are just dismissed the other day. What's it going back to the same point?
I agree that the pay gap is real, but I don't agree with the studies that a lot of people use to say that it's solely based because of being a woman, rather than taking into account career preference, time taken off, the actual way you do your job. There's a lot of other variables that go into these studies, and a lot of times I see the feminist movement say, oh, if you're a woman, you're going to make less than a man, and it's just a lot more complex than that.
So I agree that it's a nuanced conversation, so there's like two things that I want to put on it. My dad, right, do you think my dad raised my brother and I and my sister the same?
Obviously not. No, I would hope not.
Well, yeah, but like in the sense
You're a
that
man
my
and your sister's
dad
a woman.
pushed me into different things than he pushed my sister towards. I think women are raised in a way where they're not encouraged to pursue their interests. And now we're starting to get to a generation where I think that might happen, but it's gonna take some time. But then the second one is gonna be that you get what you know.
Actually, we didn't know. I just had an intuition earlier that he doesn't have a good relationship with his father. Now he's saying that, oh, my father, he pushed me in different things that he pushed my sister. And he's a feminist, so he definitely has some like judgment towards his father because of that, and maybe forming why as a feminist. I don't know.
But some parents do that. They push one side and then they flex on the other.
Yeah, but it's also, you know, two sides.
Negotiate. And this is, I can only give personal experience again. My dad has worked in HR of a company.
One over another.
They offer men more at the start than they do women because men are more likely to negotiate anyways. Women are more likely to take the first thing that is offered.
That's true, yeah.
So, and that is the thing where they take advantage of the fact that they know women feel uncomfortable in a male-dominated space. So you're going to get a job interview. You're getting interviewed by a man. Everyone you saw when you walked in, for the most part, was a man. Mm-hmm. And then they offer you a salary. You're going to be a little bit less likely to push back.
But that's
and
not
that's
on
my personal experience.
But that's not on the company in that example. That's on the women, unfortunately, right? They have to be their own best advocate. They have to stand up for themselves. They have to negotiate better. You look at this issue.
Pay them more.
When you look at
but
right,
based
like,
on
but
what,
when you look at
Equality?
this issue of the gender wage gap, also too, it's the narrative that surrounds it is absolutely factually untrue. You're looking at the average income or salaries of men and the average incomes of women, and obviously there's going to be a difference. Men and women choose to do different things. Like you said, men tend to dominate higher paying industries, higher paying careers. Women tend to go do other things.
I also think that there is a level of preservation that is omitted in these types of conversations. You guys say it's nature, right? I have 2 daughters. If I push my daughters into a male-dominated space, bricklaying or something like that, who are my kids going to have to work around? Are they going to have to endure locker room talk? Those are things that are real things that I'm going to have to entertain in my thought process when I decide where I'm going to push my child. So that's why I'm saying it's not just nature. There are societal.
No, it's not. I agree.
There are societal things in place.
Your little daughter is not gonna go into the bricklaying fucking thing. Are you fucking
That
stupid?
put women at a deficit when it comes to making money.
If a woman feels intimidated, that's on her. Like, that is on her. She needs to fight it. And I don't believe the wage gap exists because you're given the same opportunity to earn the money. The fact that you don't fight for your salary or don't fight for the wage because you feel uncomfortable, it's on you. At the end of the day, it's on you. If you go in and you're applying for a job and you feel intimidated and then they say, oh, we're going to pay you minimum wage, and you agree to it when you know you should be earning like $20 or $30 or whatever, it's on you. You can't cry about it and say, oh, this is because men dominate.
Wait,
Well, so-
I'm sorry, can I
Go ahead,
interject?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's on the woman that she feels intimidated, right? That's kind of the
Yes.
paramount. So then, is that the same when it comes to like once you're actually hired and once you are the energy or the environment that you work in as well?
Yeah,
So
100%.
so the company has no responsibility to make a safe work environment or anything like that?
I never said that.
I'm asking you a question.
He
I
did
said
just
feeling
ask you that.
intimidated is not the same as being intimidated or being constantly pushed to be, like, intimidate. You know what I mean? Like, if I were to you and go, yo, I'm gonna hit you, or yo,
No,
you know what
I
mean?
wouldn't
Or,
say
like,
that.
What I
The
have
idea that
interview
women.
for companies, there are really not respecting women in some ways. For example, some of them I want to remember, they say, oh, we have to ask you, do you have children? Because you're not hiring people that has children because they want someone to prioritize the work.
Yeah. Of course, there's some difference.
Women are tasked with their own social context and creating the environments for them.
Pay you less, even though you don't have children, and you say on the negotiations, say, oh, I can offer you that, and then you try to raise your price, and oh yeah, unfortunately you're not qualified for this position. Because there are a lot of women that they devalue themselves and charge less than they deserve because they are afraid, or they have no option, or they need to work to have money. They accept those conditions.
Oh. Well, in Norway, if you have an employee, it's illegal to discriminate them if they're going to have a child or not.
Themselves that they want to.
And
This
of course, there might be, you know, small conflicts, but usually it's taken care of because the system is quite good in that.
was a company in US.
Hmm?
In the US, I guess it's more common.
Yeah.
America.
And especially with contractors, I guess. No?
To operate within, even though they are continually stripped of power, is infuriating and is disrespectful. It echoed the sentiment of Black people keeping themselves down because of the acknowledgement of racism.
I think we'd all agree teachers, nurses, medical professionals, objectively important jobs for the fabric of society.
In the United States.
And
So
we clearly undervalue these industries that are women dominant. Do you think that that's just a coincidence?
No, where I would agree with you is I do think that teachers and nurses should make more money, but that doesn't factor into the point that there is a pay gap, because if a man goes to be a teacher, he's still going to get paid the same amount as a woman.
All right,
So it
let's
doesn't
take a
really
job.
matter.
Let's take a job where men and women both participate. Like World Cup's going on right now. Look at the U.S. American men's team and the women's
The men's
team.
team is also significant.
That's not a fair comparison, you fucking idiot. My God. The men's sport bring in thousands of viewers, and the female, they don't. They don't bring in thousands of viewers, and the viewers are what brings revenue.
Significantly more skilled than the women's team and brings in a bigger
and more
audience.
people watch
Skilled
it.
how?
More people
They
watch
play
it. Do you think people that play in the
But they don't-
WNBA should be making the same thing as NBA
they-
players?
Exactly.
I don't
But they
think
should be getting the
NBA
same
or
shit.
WNBA players should be
same-
making more
That's not
than
my question.
teachers.
That's not my
and
question.
doctors.
In 2022, women are not victims. But yet we live in a society that glorifies being a victim, glorifies being oppressed, glorifies people feeling bad for you, when honestly, all it does is, again, it provides another disservice to the people that are these so-called victims.